So it's consistency, right? It's doing the same thing through every step of the process. So for grossing, say we create a standardized template, our specimen is going to be in the same spot every time during our dictation, what our specimen is, then our measurements of the specimen, size of tumor. It's just like the CAP cancer protocols.
Uh-huh.
So it's like we're going in the same order as the CAP cancer protocols through every step of grossing. And then with synoptic reporting, then we're going to have kind of like bullet points.
Welcome to the People of Pathology podcast. I'm Dennis Drake. On this podcast, we explore pathology, laboratory medicine, and forensic science. Standardization in pathology can help us streamline routine tasks and work more efficiently. Today, my guest is Angie Dowell, a pathologist assistant and customer success manager at Vistapath. Angie focuses on integrating AI technology into pathology. Today, we'll talk about the importance of data standardization and how AI can enhance the role of pathologist assistants without replacing the human dexterity essential in pathology. All right, let's jump right into it with Angie Dowell. Let's start at the beginning then for you. I'm curious, how did you discover the pathologist assistant field?
So I was already working in the hospital in microbiology as a tech, and the specimens kept coming down. Like I had an aorta that I would have to swab and streak a plate for. And I was always amazed and overwhelmed in a good way by the bigger specimens. I would get so excited. I would tell all the other microtechs about it. I also told the microbiologist that was on staff about it. And he said, you know what? You don't belong here. You belong up in the gross lab. And he arranged for me to go up to the gross lab and observe for a week while I got paid, which was amazing. You know,
Nice.
then we could do things like that.
Yeah.
And I should mention that I've been a PA for 12 years, so this was a while ago. And I went and observed the lab for a week. The lead PA there, Adrian Winters, actually let me shadow him.
Yep.
And
I know him.
yeah, he was
Everybody knows him, I think.
I think so. He seems to be well connected.
Yeah.
So he was definitely inspiring and a great teacher. I learned a lot from him, and I asked if I could stay and work there. So 2 weeks later, I was working in the gross lab, which
Okay.
was really nice. They had a position that just opened, and I was already in the stage of studying for the GRE and getting ready for a physician assistant program. So I was in my transitional year from my bachelor's degree to master's degree. While I was up there studying, uh, after work or on breaks or in between, I got to know all of the pathologists and the residents really well. And the group of pathologists, I guess they really liked my work, so they offered a program where they would pay my tuition if I stayed on contract with them 5 years after I graduated from my PA school program. So I decided to go ahead and take the pathologist assistant route and went to Rosalind Franklin University. And it turned out well. I stayed with that group and had a great start to my career. They were very supportive.
That's a great story. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Two things. So you said you started in microbiology. Were you a medical laboratory scientist or?
No, I was just a tech. So a tech that accepted specimens and accessioned them, and I would streak the auger plates.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How did you get involved with that?
So while I was going to my undergrad, I was also a lab teaching assistant. And my last 2 years of college, I was a TA for anatomy and also a TA for microbiology. And I really enjoyed microbiology. It was my favorite class. And I would make auger plates while I was in undergrad. And my micro professor found out about a job at the hospital. And he's the one who recommended me to work as a tech at the hospital.
Okay. Well, it's good to know people in certain situations like that, like you were saying about being well connected. So
Oh,
that
for
was
sure.
good. Okay. The other question then is when you got to go and shadow in the gross room, did you like it immediately?
I did.
Okay.
I loved it. I liked it the first day, and I
Okay.
started getting nervous, wondering if I was actually going to get a job there or not. I had like 2 weeks of anxiety before Skip, Adrian Winters, told me that I had a job there.
I've talked to so many people that they kind of, I don't want to say fall into this field, but it's kind of, you end up in it by accident and you realize, well, this is really cool. I want to do this. And it happened for me too. Like I had never heard of this. And I just happened to end up in a hospital. I was a lab assistant in a histology lab and was watching the PA grossing. I thought, this is really cool. I want to do that. And I'd never heard of it before.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it either. I had no idea until the microbiologist told me about it. It seems like most anatomical pathology labs are hidden in a basement somewhere and we're not really seen. And I think we are kind of a quiet group of people. So it takes a while for maybe other departments to hear about us just because you kind of have to be working in surgery or
Sure.
radiology to know about pathology.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think it's still true. Maybe not as much now, but it's still mostly true. A lot of what we're going to talk about today has to do with AI and machine learning. And I've found that in conversations with other people, a lot of PAs can be intimidated by these things, AI and machine learning. And it seems like for you, you've embraced it. And in fact, that's a large part of your job now, which we'll get into later. So tell me about that. Like, where did that curiosity about AI come from?
So AI is new and different. It's understandable to be a bit intimidated. And I would say that my curiosity stems probably from the way I grew up. So I grew up on a goat farm in the middle of nowhere. And
Okay.
so I had a lot of chores at a young age and a lot of responsibility. And I was raised by my grandparents. So my grandparents were very resourceful and inventive and creative. So I would say that my grandma would come up with a lot of ideas. And then my grandpa he was a mechanic, he was an airplane mechanic. So he would build all of these things. So every morning, I would have goats to feed and water and take care of before I went to the bus stop, which was like a mile away, and I
Oh,
had to ride
wow.
my bike down this dirt road a mile away. So it was always like a time crunch to get all of these things moving and get it completed before I went to the bus stop. So we had this big trough, and I would pour all the feed in this big trough, and all the goats would come at once. Well, the problem was all of these goats were coming to this huge trough, and the bigger ones would push the smaller ones out of the way, and the smaller ones started starving because they weren't getting enough food. And my grandmother came up with this idea, what if we fed them in the barn? Because when it's cold, they don't want to come out of the barn. So, what if we fed them in the barn and then made these keyhole slots? So, the barn had a separate room with the feed, and then there was this long wall against that feed room. And we built this contraption to where one whole wall had these keyhole slots where the goat head would go in and then they would slide their head down to the bottom of the keyhole and eat. So they were individual slots for the goats to eat. And then I would go into the room that was on the other side of the wall. And I was small, this is when I was like 6 or 7.
Mhm.
And I would fill up a coffee can of feed, and then we had, like, a little window with a flap door. I would push that flap door open, pour the feed in, and then all the goats would run, and they were already trained to know that they put their head in the keyhole and then eat until they're done.
Okay.
And so all of that would be done before I would jump on my bike and ride my bike down to the bus stop. It became all about efficiency, and I feel like that has really stuck with me. When you become efficient, then you can be curious about other things, right? When you become efficient and you start taking care of all those repetitive tasks and get those done, then you can have the curiosity to do other things that you enjoy. Like I play piano and, I teach spin class. So if my day is efficient and I can get everything done and have all those repetitive tasks done more efficiently, then I can have time to do the things that I really enjoy.
Okay. Okay, I like that. And so this AI kind of applying AI is about improving efficiency, getting the mundane tasks done so you can concentrate on the important stuff, right?
Exactly. So if you have your repetitive tasks taken care of, just like my job today, I have a lot of repetitive tasks. If AI can help me take care of those repetitive tasks, then I can have more time to do the things that require a higher level of thinking.
Okay, yeah. And so well let's really stress this here because again, often when you talk about AI, people are afraid of it not because I guess partially because of the learning new technology, but also the fear of getting replaced by it. And it sounds like what you're saying is, and other people I've had on the podcast have said before, it's about using the AI to help you accomplish other tasks rather than replace you completely. You still need the human, right?
Yes, you still need the manual dexterity.
Hmm.
So we still need someone cutting and actually palpating and feeling and touching a specimen. That's how you find a tumor a lot of times in a mastectomy, right? Is by palpating.
Yeah.
So we definitely still need that. We are a long way away from robotics getting to that point. AI can definitely be your interface on your computer screen, but we still need human fingers and touch, and we still need the best people to do that, and the best people to do that are pathologist assistants.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Something else you're interested in is standardization and grossing. And I really want to get into this because this is an interesting topic. But first, let's define like what do you mean by this?
So standardization is all PAs doing the same thing. So it's consistency, right? It's doing the same thing through every step of the process. So for grossing, say we create a standardized template, our specimen is going to be in the same spot every time during our dictation, what our specimen is, that our measurements of the specimen, size of tumor. It's just like the CAP cancer protocols.
Uh,
So it's like we're going in the same order as the CAP cancer protocols through every step of grossing. And then with synoptic reporting, then we're going to have kind of like bullet points. We'll have size, color, size of tumor, in the same form as the synoptic report.
okay, so then both the gross description and the pathologic diagnosis will be in the same format, the synoptic format, right?
Yes. Yes.
And you're talking about templates, so these are like synoptic templates that well, sort of a fill in the blank kind of thing. Is that what
Right.
you mean?
Right. So, for example, with AI, our AI, like at Vistapath, our AI measures a specimen. So that will transfer over into this standardized template. So we'll have live feed imaging that measures a specimen, and then that will automatically fill into that template. So like
Okay.
right now, there are already synoptic templates out there, and I actually use them, and it made me much more efficient. I use them at a hospital as a travel PA, and I grossed a lot faster, and I was more efficient. So as we think about this with a platform, an AI platform doing this, our AI platform will measure and recognize the color and fill in those blanks for us. And then PAs can fill in the higher level thinking things.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Do you think that there's a limitation to the usefulness of these synoptic descriptions? Like, yeah, they're useful in simpler specimens, but when things get more complicated, is there a point where you really can't use something like that?
So, of course, there will be something unique, right? There always is. That's what's fascinating about pathology. We always see these crazy tumors,
Yeah.
sometimes it's something we've never seen before.
Hmm.
So that will definitely happen for sure. And that needs to be described as well. So we still need a human for that. We still need a human that can recognize this differential diagnosis and add that to the dictation. For example, at the last hospital I was at, we had a synoptic report for AP resections. And then at the bottom, it said comments extra, something unusual. If you saw something unusual, then you needed to state that. I would see a perforation. A lot of times there would be a perforation, and that needs to be stated for sure.
Yeah.
And pathologists need to know what that is and what color it was inked and what relation it is into surrounding tissues.
Want to get into like the advantages of these standardized templates, and I think you've already touched on a big one, is that it makes it faster or easier for us to gross more specimens,
Yes.
right? Okay, what else then for advantages there, like things like tumor registry, for example?
So the biggest thing with AI data in healthcare is to think about it as a timeline. So our data is a commodity, but in healthcare, we're moving across a timeline, right? So we're going from the OR all the way to the patient. So we're starting with our specimen data coming from the OR, going to the gross bench, going into a synoptic gross report, then going to the pathologist CAP cancer protocol report, then going to the National Tumor Registry. Then from the National Tumor Registry, it's going to possibly put the patient into a clinical trial. So that's going full circle. I think the best way to think about this is that you're moving along the timeline and you have data elements moving across the timeline.
Let's talk a little bit more about tumor registries, because you mentioned things like they're involved in putting patients in clinical trials. I imagine also research applications are involved with data from tumor registries, right? Things like that. Am I kind of on the right path there?
Yes. So right now we kind of have data in a little bit of a mess with pathology just because we have so many different ways to dictate and we are using a paragraph form. So as AI comes along, we are teaching AI. Good AI is good data. So AI is learning from the data we give it. So if you have paragraph form that AI cannot read, then it is not going to transfer across all the way into the tumor registry. Unfortunately, when it gets to the tumor registry, if it can't be read in a timely manner, sometimes it is possible that a patient cannot get into their clinical trial because they missed the date.
Okay.
So it is very important to make sure that your data transfers across. Right now, that's the responsibility of the pathologist, right?
Hmm.
So why not make it easier for the pathologist? Let's work together as a team and let's help the pathologist to have their data in a standardized format to where they can instantly read what goes across to their synoptic report that will then go over to the tumor registry.
Okay. So like streamlining this process so that all of the data looks the same, and then it will transfer over to the tumor registry the same way, because it's all in the same format, right?
Right. And a lot of people are talking about this. It's already a topic that's out there. We had a PA, Eric Daly, gave a talk in Las Vegas at the CAP meeting that was very motivating. And he actually discussed how this affects patients all the way to the end. He had a panel talk about it. If you want to follow up and read about that, it was a really good talk.
Hmm.
Uh, so a lot of PAs are already talking about this, and AAPA is working on it with their grossing guidelines. They are going to come out with a fourth edition that will include synoptic reports that mirror the CAP cancer protocols.
Right. Okay. And it will include synoptic templates too, right? Isn't that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, we are working on that.
I don't know if I've mentioned that on this podcast before, but the AAPA grossing guidelines, for anybody who doesn't know, and if you're not a PA, maybe you don't, but these are free for use with anybody that's grossing in a pathology lab. You have to, apply for access to it. But if you work in a pathology department, you should be able to get access to it. And there's a lot of information in them. I've done some work on it too, and I know you have. there's a lot of information in there, and we're constantly updating them to keep up with the CAP cancer protocols. So it's a really good resource.
It really is. And now that there will be templates, that saves so many people from having to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
There's so many lead PAs out there that just do not have time to create templates. And now it will be provided for you.
Yeah.
So thank you to all the volunteers with the AAPA.
This is the People of Pathology podcast with our guest, Angie Dowell. We'll be right back. If you think it would be nice to have a helpful reference about digital pathology, I have some great news for you. Dr. Alexander Zhurov has written a book called Digital Pathology 101. All you need to know to start and continue your digital pathology journey. This book will help you whether you're a complete novice or a digital pathology trailblazer. You can get a copy of it by following the link in the show notes. LabVine is an interactive online learning platform where laboratory professionals learn, develop, and discover by sharing knowledge and building on each other's experience. The platform provides global access to internationally accredited laboratory-specific courses and other resources developed by lab specialists like us for the laboratory industry. LabVine is free to sign up, and you can use the link in the show notes to get started. And now for the rest of my conversation with Angie Dowell on the People of Pathology podcast. Now, you've been talking a lot about the importance of data, how data is a timeline. The thing that I've noticed is most of the time when people talk about pathology data, it's the microscopic data, right? So I'm curious then, like, how does this apply for, say, data from a gross specimen?
So that is true. Most of the talk is about microscopic data right now, but PAs are creating data every single day. Every day, PAs are putting out data for pathologists to use that will then go across to tumor registries. So with all the data that PAs are putting out there, it's important to be able to organize this. And AI will be able to organize it. We just have to put it into a form that AI can recognize. So that is why synoptic templates are important. Synoptic templates are easier to read with data elements and straightforward margin measurements.
So again, easier to extract the data in that
Yes.
format.
Yes. And then who knows? There's lots of possibilities out there once AI actually starts putting all of this data collection together. Who knows what could come out of it? AI might be able to actually recognize something that we didn't see before. There might be new things that come out of this. It's kind of like a bunch of pathologist assistants getting together at one time with all of their knowledge and thinking about different specimens and then coming up with an idea. Kind of like when we all get together and we have these meetings with the pathologist about the best way to dictate Whipples.
Right. Okay. No, I like that analogy. That's a good way to put it. A lot of this stuff kind of falls in under sort of the theme, I guess, of consistency, right? And again, standardization and consistency is the same way. So then talk about that, how this standardized templates kind of contribute to consistency.
So AI and data are consistent. They are always consistent. It's how we put it out there. That is what we need to focus on to make us consistent.
Uh-huh.
So if PAs and pathologists are looking at the same templates every day, that is consistency. They're looking at the same thing in the same order every single day. So this leads to consistency from the bench to the microscope, then to the patient at the clinical trial. And I remember when I was a first year PA, fresh out of PA school, and I was dictating. Well, and one pathologist wanted one thing, another pathologist another thing. And I remember one pathologist wanted the tumor measurements and description of the tumor up front before everything else, before he talked about anything else, all the description of the tumor immediately. But then 5 other pathologists wanted you to describe like a uterus first and then the tumor. So, color measurement. And one day I got those confused and I flip-flopped it and it was a mess.
I believe it. Yeah.
I had so many complaints because, I was dictating for one pathologist and another pathologist got the dictation that I was actually trying to do for someone else. And I had this lecture given to me about consistency, doing the same thing over and over and over again. And it made me think it's true,
Mm-hmm.
is what's important. If you're doing the same thing every single day consistently, then you're getting it correct consistently, right?
That's something like when I'm showing, because I work with residents and sometimes they're showing them how to grow a particular type of specimen. And I find myself saying a lot of the time, like, this is the way that I do it. There's other ways to do this, but figure out which way you want to do it and then always do it that way
Yes.
for like you're saying, the consistency. Yeah.
Yes.
But if you've got two different pathologists that want things to, different ways, h- how do you rectify that problem or get a sort of a consensus opinion, or did that even happen in that situation?
Okay. So I've been preaching about templates for a long time, like
Okay.
since I graduated from Rosalind Franklin. And I would think that it probably started from that. I created my own templates. So back then I had to use a Word document. And we
Uh-huh.
had Vistapath. So I created my own templates in a Word document. And then I would copy and paste my template from the Word document into PowerPath and then fill in the blanks myself.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And, you know, it didn't really catch on with other people, but it worked for me.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think like maybe you were a little bit ahead of your time because that's becoming a lot more common now. All this we've been talking about, let's kind of bring this to a practical application. So I wanted to focus on you work at Vistapath now, which is using AI and templates to do a lot of this stuff that we've been talking about. So before we get into that, like, how did you decide to move into industry with Vistapath?
So I needed growth and change. I had been working at the same hospital for a very long time, and I knew that I needed to see something different because I was becoming sort of a robot at work. I would go in, do the same thing every day, and I could just tell personally that I needed growth.
Okay.
So I decided to become a travel PA, and I worked for a travel agency and went to California. I worked with a group there that was very organized, and they already had templates that worked really well. And I feel like you learn from every PA that you work with. So all
Oh,
the P
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
yeah, and all the PAs that I've worked with along my career have taught me so much. All of my growth has actually been from the PAs I work with. Every PA taught me something new and taught me kind of grossing hacks to help do my job better. And being a travel PA, I got to meet even more PAs that kind of helped me learn and be more efficient. And I feel like these PAs made my career. You know, my career is from the other PAs that I met. And one of these people is Mateo Lopez, and he is my current director at Vistapath. Mateo and I have some things in common. Mateo is very adaptable to change, and so am I. And we noticed while we were working together that we were always the two people kind of adapting to change quickly and jumping right on that boat to move forward with any kind of change that happened in the lab. And I think that we bonded over that because it kind of made us team up together. Whenever a big change would happen, we would get excited about it and want to move forward and talk about how we were going to move forward with the rest of the lab. So it almost seemed like we were the two cheerleaders working together to make changes happen. And while I was working in California, he reached out to me and asked if I would be interested. So I looked into the company. I did what everyone does. I Google it,
Of course. Yep.
search it, and, you know, started reading about it. And it's actually pretty incredible. I feel like they are ahead of their time. You know,
Mm.
they started in 2017 with this AI tech, and It actually started with a histotech, and he works with some MIT graduates that teamed up together and created this company. And it's very innovative, and they're just very ambitious, driven people that care about quality. I can't say that about a lot of companies, you know,
Yeah.
but I could tell immediately from talking to all of them that their number one priority is quality.
Okay. That's important. So then tell me about your role at Vistapath.
So I am a customer success manager at Vistapath. I teach other PAs. You can think of me as your AI to human bionic woman.
Okay. It's a good
I'm
one.
here to help ease the fears of AI coming into the pathology lab and making its way into our basements. I reach out to a lot of PAs. I mostly do education and just kind of talk and, listen to other people's perspectives, try to understand what their fears are, and then talk through how AI is augmented grossing and here to assist the grosser.
If you had to name like one aspect that you find most rewarding about this position, what do you think that would be?
Definitely talking with PAs and listening to their perspective. I really feel like this technology will help PAs. It will help us be more efficient. It will not take away our job. It will help us to be more efficient and more organized. I noticed that throughout my career, I was always stressed out during frozens. I would get very stressed because I would be in the middle of a case. And when I first started, I would be in the middle of dictating with a foot pedal. And as soon as I left to go to do a frozen, my dictation was lost. And recently, the frozen station would be a completely different station. And so, of course, your screen times out and all that with the case that you're working on. You forget what you're doing. Uh, and you leave and you go do 25 frozens. And
Right.
that case is just kind of sitting there. So, also, what if people have to go to lunch? What if someone's doing something else and all these different things that are happening and you're the only PA doing 25 frozens? I
Mhm.
feel like this technology really helps with that because you're you have to do it one at a time. So, you're bringing it in one at a time. It's measuring for you, it's recognizing the color and instantly transferring that over to Epic and Beaker or whatever your LIS is. So that's already making you more efficient because you've scanned your container, you've taken it out of the container, it's already measured and dictated and uploaded into Epic and Beaker. Then you can send it off to your cryostat. So if you're going through like an assembly line with 25 frozens, one right after the other, you're keeping it organized.
Okay. So we've got increased efficiency, increased organization, and standardization, of course, with applying AI through the Vista, the Sentinel is the name of the device, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Another thing that I wanted to touch on a little bit too is
Okay.
that a lot of us PAs teach, but we don't necessarily have the time to teach. And if we're teaching a new gross tech or a pathology resident that has never gross before, these are templates that are either from the institution or in the future from AAPA that will be in the Vistapath system. So when a new gross tech or a path resident is learning how to gross, they need guidance. So this is the first step of guidance, right? Because you actually have a system here that's measuring, showing you color, and then organizing that data into the template that you have. So it's kind of prepared for them. They can see what happens and instantly.
Okay. So you've got like kind of educational aspect of this too. It seems like it would shorten the learning curve of learning how to gross. And it's kind of a, what is it? Sort of like a grossing tutor almost
Yes,
I guess in a way.
I like that. Yes, that is good. It
Okay.
is.
When you're introducing the Sentinel to new PAs, other residents, things like that, Are people generally receptive to this kind of technology, or what kind of reaction do you normally get?
So I feel like people think that it will take away their job,
Mm,
but it's not here to take away a grocer's job. We are a very long way away from robotics and a robot having fingers that can touch and feel and recognize where a tumor is in a mastectomy specimen. We still need PAs to feel through and see things that AI cannot see. It cannot function independently. We still need a PA to approve and view what is happening on the screen. It's still learning. It's in its beginning steps. We have a long way to go before this technology can actually gross a Whipple.
yeah.
Yeah, a long way.
Mhm.
But this is the beginning. This is the start. This is where it all begins.
Right. Yeah. Well, all right. So then well, let's end with this. Like you say, this is the beginning, the start. If this technology catches on and standardization happens like we're saying it should, and templates become used more regularly, where do you think this is going to go? Like how would all of these things change how we gross in the future, say in 3 to 5 years?
So I think we'll be a lot more efficient as PAs and we'll actually have the time for higher level thinking.
Okay.
So as we move along, the repetitive, mundane task will be taken care of by AI, and PAs will be able to focus on the higher level thinking task. There's a lot of possibility that can come out of this, and I feel like the possibilities that will come out of it will come from PAs. PAs will be the ones who lead where this technology goes. We are the leaders in the gross room and we grow specimens the best. So we're going to be the ones who decide the direction of this new technology.
Okay. I like that. That's cool. And I'm super interested in technologies like this. So I'm happy we got the opportunity to talk about this kind of thing. I appreciate your time, Angie Dowell. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
If you're looking for another episode of the People of Pathology podcast to check out after this one, here's a clip from my interview with Mateo Lopez as we get a little introduction to the Sentinel from Vistapath.
Essentially, it's a modern grossing station, but
Okay.
the difference is it has proprietary AI that can generate a gross description in less than a second. So, that to me makes it stand out quite a bit. On top of that, we offer quality in live images of the cassette, the container of the tissue that we put in the cassette, which this helps us address things like, if a clinician disagrees with the number of pieces in a container, or maybe what was labeled on the container. These are things, as far as some of the new things that it brings to the table. We have the ability to have these images of the container and of the cassettes to the pathologist, so they can see that on the report itself. And not only is it images, it's data, and it's data that is incredibly accurate and consistent.
You can hear more from Mateo Lopez in episode 177. All right, big thanks to Angie Dowell. So we delved into the topic of AI and pathology, specifically in grossing. Angie emphasized that AI should be seen as a tool to handle repetitive tasks, thereby freeing up PAs to focus on more complex, higher level thinking. We also discussed the importance of standardization in grossing, including the use of synoptic templates to ensure consistency and efficiency. Angie highlighted how AI can assist in this process by automating measurements and descriptions, which can then be integrated into standardized templates. This not only speeds up the grossing process, but also ensures that data is easily transferable to tumor registries and other forms of data collection. By providing a uniform framework for data collection, standardized templates ensure that everyone is on the same page. When we utilize the same templates daily, it fosters consistency in how data is recorded and interpreted. This uniformity is crucial not only for the immediate workflow, but also for the downstream effects on patient care. When talking about pathology data, most often it's in reference to microscopic data. But let's not forget the amount of data present in a gross description as well. Much of that data is important for tumor registries and has implications for research too. Standardization of that data then becomes vital. Angie pointed out that consistent, easily readable data can significantly impact patient outcomes by ensuring timely and accurate information transfer. One of the main challenges in pathology is the variability in data collection and reporting. Pathologist assistants can encounter differing expectations in various hospitals regarding how data should be presented. This inconsistency can lead to confusion, errors, and inefficiencies. We also touched on the broader implications of data consistency. With standardized templates, the path from grossing bench to microscope to patient becomes more streamlined and reliable. Consistency in data reporting not only enhances the accuracy of diagnoses, but also contributes to more effective clinical trials and research outcomes. Angie explained how data is a timeline as it moves from one process to the next. The implementation of standardized templates ensures that every pathologist assistant follows the same protocol when grossing specimens. This consistency is vital, as it allows for clear communication and understanding of specimen characteristics. By adhering to established guidelines, like the CAP cancer protocols and the AAPA grossing guidelines, you can navigate the grossing process in a systematic manner. This ensures that no critical details are overlooked. The use of synoptic templates further enhances this process, allowing for a fill-in-the-blank approach that simplifies documentation and reduces the likelihood of errors. One of the most significant advantages of standardization is the increase in efficiency it brings to the workflow. As Angie noted, utilizing synoptic templates greatly improved her speed and productivity in grossing specimens. The integration of AI tools, such as the Vistapath Sentinel, takes this efficiency a step further. It automates the measurement and recognition of some gross features. With AI handling the more repetitive and straightforward tasks, PAs can focus on higher-level thinking and the nuances that require human insight, such as identifying unusual tumor characteristics. This collaboration between AI and human expertise not only accelerates the grossing process, but also enhances the overall quality of pathology reports. Standardization plays a pivotal role in ensuring that data flows seamlessly from the grossing bench to the final pathology report and beyond, into tumor registries and clinical trials. This is the timeline that Angie mentioned. We highlighted the current challenges faced in pathology data management, where diverse dictation styles and paragraph forms can hinder the effective transfer of information. By shifting to standardized templates, the data becomes more accessible and interpretable for AI systems, which can then facilitate timely and accurate reporting to tumor registries. Standardized data formats help to prevent unnecessary delays. Angie's role at Vistapath involves educating and supporting PAs in adopting AI technology. She is passionate about easing the fears surrounding AI and demonstrating its potential to enhance, rather than replace, the work of PAs. AI is often perceived as intimidating, and that's understandable. Angie explained that it should be viewed as a tool for enhancing efficiency rather than as a threat. By automating repetitive tasks, AI allows PAs to focus on higher-level thinking and complex decision-making, which are essential parts of our jobs. Rather than viewing AI as a threat to job security, we should try to embrace it as a catalyst for increased productivity and enhanced patient outcomes. By combining experience, support, and curiosity with the power of technology, pathologist assistants can thrive in an increasingly complex and technology-driven world. As always, I'll have links in the show notes to everything we talked about today. Don't forget you can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at People of Path, or just connect with me on LinkedIn. Oh, I have to tell you a quick story. The lab where I work is creating a promotional video. So, they have a camera crew that comes around and visits each department. Well, when they got to the gross room, one of the people on the crew mentioned that her sister is currently in a PA program and is a big fan of this podcast. So, shout out to Taylor. Thank you for listening. And thank you to everyone for listening. Together, let's inspire the next generation of pathologists and laboratory professionals. This show is a member of Health Podcast Network. Again, thanks for listening. I'm Dennis Strank, and I'll talk to you next time on the People of Pathology podcast.